should have never turned down Route 6. That thought kept coming back to me, looping in my head the same way the landmarks on that cursed stretch of asphalt did. If I'd stuck to the main highway, maybe I'd have been a couple hours late on the delivery, sure. But I'd still be somewhere safe, still be me. Instead, I took the shortcut. And now, when I close my eyes, I still see that leaning barn, that rotten oak, and that stop sign rusted to the bone. They haunt me more than any nightmare ever could. It started like any other night on the job. I was behind the wheel of my Freightliner, hauling a refrigerated load through Kentucky's backcountry. The sun had long since dropped, and the kind of thick, heavy dark that only comes out in rural America swallowed the road. The hum of the tires on the asphalt and the low growl of the engine were the only constants. The air smelled of diesel, stale coffee, and the faint sweetness of the mint gum I chewed to stay awake. I've been running long hours. Too long, if I'm honest. The dispatcher had warned me about delays, and my company doesn't take kindly to late shipments. So when my GPS suggested a back road that would shave nearly an hour off my route, I didn't think twice. The screen lit up with the words, Route 6, faster route. I figured, sure, why not? The turnoff was barely marked, a faded green sign half hidden by overgrown weeds. The road itself was narrow or cracked in places, but it didn't seem unusual. I'd driven worse. The GPS ticked down the minutes like a reassuring friend. 56 minutes to destination. 55. 54. My cab light flickered briefly and I smacked the switch with the heel of my palm until it steadied. Just another back road, I told myself. Nothing to worry about. That's when I saw the barn. It leaned to one side like a drunk trying to stand upright, its wood planks gray and weather-eaten. One floodlight above the door buzzed weakly, casting a yellow cone across the sagging structure. Just beyond it, a massive oak tree clawed at the sky with bare skeletal branches, even though the rest of the roadside trees still clung to their late summer leaves. A rusted stop sign sat crooked at the end of the road. Its red paint flaked away to the steel beneath. The three of them together, the barn, the oak, the stop sign, looked like props on a stage, arranged, set there for me. I shook my head and kept driving, chalking it up to fatigue. But 40 minutes later I saw them again. Same barn, same dead oak, same stop sign. I slowed the rig, squinting at the landmarks as my stomach nodded. Had I taken a wrong turn? No, I hadn't. I'd been going straight the whole time. No intersections, no forks. Just one long stretch of road. My GPS still tracked me forward, the blue dot crawling confidently along a digital map. But I knew deep down something was wrong. I muttered, no way, no damn way. I rolled down the window, letting the humid Kentucky night air rush in. It carried the smell of damp soil and something else, mildew maybe, or rot. The kind of smell you catch in the back of your throat, sour and earthy, like wet leaves left too long. My headlights washed over the stop sign again, and I swore it gleamed darker, wetter than before. I gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles white against the leather. A bead of sweat rolled down my temple, and not from the heat. I kept driving. 20 minutes passed. My eyelids grew heavy and I blasted the AC to keep myself awake. The GPS clock ticked down again. 31 minutes to destination. Then, like a sick joke, the barn appeared once more. I cursed loudly, slamming my fist against the steering wheel. This isn't funny. I slowed the truck, pulling onto the gravel shoulder. The rig hissed and groaned as I shifted into neutral. I grabbed my phone and flicked through apps. The GPS still showed me moving forward. No sign of a loop, no error message, just calm reassurance. 29 minutes to destination. I tried calling dispatch, but the line didn't even ring, just went dead. No bars, not even a sliver of a signal. The cab felt smaller, tighter, like the walls were inching closer. My coffee thermos rattled in its holder as if from some invisible vibration. I rolled the window down again, listening. No crickets, no nightbirds, no wind in the trees, just silence. And then, tap. A sound against the passenger window. I whipped my head around, heart hammering. Nothing there, just the empty road stretching into blackness. I pulled back onto the asphalt, more anxious now than tired. I told myself it had to be some trick of fatigue, a hallucination from too many hours without rest. But the truth gnawed at me. I had driven into something else, something not meant to be traveled. Another 40 minutes later, the landmarks returned. This time I didn't even curse. I just stared as the barn rolled into my headlights, as the dead oak stood against the horizon like a blackened skeleton, as the stop sign leaned toward me with rust-red teeth. But something had changed. The barn's floodlight was out, leaving its doorway a gaping void. The oak looked thicker, its bark split by fresh gouges, like claws had raked down its surface. And the stop sign? There was a streak running down the middle, dark and glistening. My mind told me rain. My gut told me blood. I hit the accelerator harder than I should have, the engine roaring as the rig thundered past. The road swallowed me again, mile after mile of nothing but blacktop and forest. My hands trembled on the wheel. By then, I knew. This wasn't fatigue. This wasn't a mistake. I was trapped. I don't know how long I kept driving after that third pass. The dash clock ticked forward, but time felt meaningless. Minutes stretched thin, hours collapsed into seconds. The road ahead was the same monotonous strip of cracked asphalt. The painted lines faded to pale ghosts under my headlights. I told myself I'd turn around. That's all I needed to do. Just pull a wide U-turn, backtrack to the highway, pretend this never happened. It was simple, logical. So I slowed, checked my mirrors, and angled the rig across both lanes. Gravel crunched under the tires as I swung wide, heart pounding in my chest. I straightened out and pressed the accelerator, heading back the way I came. 10 minutes later, my stomach dropped. The barn was there. The oak. The stop sign. It didn't matter which way I turned. I was locked into this stretch, as though the world had folded in on itself, leaving me stuck in a crooked seam. I gripped the wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. My mouth was dry, tongue thick and heavy. I reached for my thermos, but the coffee inside had gone lukewarm, bitter, metallic. I spat the first sip into the cup holder, gagging. The CB radio hissed softly, its red light glowing in the dark like a watchful eye. Static filled the cab, constant, low, like the whisper of some distant ocean. I hadn't touched the dial. Then, through the static, a voice. Broken, crackling, but unmistakable. Shouldn't be here. I froze. My hand hovered inches from the mic. The voice repeated, clearer this time. You shouldn't be here. I grabbed the mic. Who is this? You got a copy? The line fizzed. Another burst of static, then silence. I waited, breath held tight, but nothing else came. I shoved the mic back into its cradle and flicked off the CB. The silence that followed was worse. It pressed against my eardrums, thick and suffocating, as though the cab itself was holding its breath. I cracked the window. The night air hit me, humid and rank, and beneath it, something faint. Wet earth, sure, but sweeter, rotten, like fruit left out in the sun too long. This time I slowed before the barn, studying it as my headlights washed over the warped boards. The floodlight was still out. The door, half open, revealed only blackness. For a moment I thought I saw something moving inside, like a pale shape shifting against the dark, but when I blinked it was gone. The oak tree loomed larger now. Its bark seemed split further, raw wood exposed like muscle under torn skin. I swear I saw sap oozing from the cracks, sticky and dark, dripping to the ground. Only it wasn't sap. The stop sign glinted wet. The streak was longer now, thicker, as though someone had dragged something across it. My high beams caught faint fingerprints in the rust. I wanted to believe it was my mind playing tricks, but my gut told me otherwise. The road wasn't just looping. It was changing, evolving, watching me. By the time the fifth loop rolled around, my body was screaming for rest. My eyelids drooped, heavy as stones. The cab light flickered again, buzzing faintly. That's when I saw it, in the passenger seat. For a split second, someone was sitting there. A man, or the outline of one. Dark clothes, face indistinct like smoke shaped into human form. His head was turned toward me, watching silently. I screamed, jerking the wheel. The rig swerved hard onto the shoulder, tires spitting gravel. My chest slammed against the seatbelt, breath ripped from my lungs. When I looked again, the seat was empty. Just my crumpled jacket and an old road atlas sliding to the floor. I pulled over, heart hammering, and shoved the truck into park. My hands shook as I fumbled for the logbook, scrawling notes with trembling fingers. Fifth pass, passenger seat, not alone. I stared at the words, my own handwriting alien on the page. The GPS still ticked down as if mocking me. 17 minutes to destination. 16, 15. Each time I reached the landmarks, the timer reset. The blue dot on the screen crept forward, but the road beneath me betrayed every promise. The barn was different again. The door was wide open now, its frame leaning into the night. Something pale hung from the rafters, cloth maybe, or skin. The oak's branches twitched in the still air, shifting like skeletal arms. And the stop sign. This time words were scratched into the metal, fresh, jagged letters that hadn't been there before. Turn back. The letters dripped as though carved with something sharp and wet. I pressed the accelerator, refusing to look, but the words burned into my mind. Turn back. Turn back. Only there was no back, no exit, no escape. The CB flared again, louder this time. My whole cab buzzed with static, the air filled with the sharp metallic scent of ozone. A new voice cut through, male, rough, desperate. Don't stop. Whatever you do, don't stop. I grabbed the mic. Who are you? Where is this? How do I get out? Static swallowed the words. The red light on the radio blinked twice, then died completely. I sat frozen in the cab, headlights cutting through the dark, hands trembling on the wheel. I didn't know who the voice belonged to or how it reached me, but I knew one thing with certainty. I wasn't the first, and I wasn't alone. The road was shrinking. That was the only way I could describe it. Each pass through the loop took less time. At first, it had been 40 minutes between landmarks, then 30, then 20. By the 9th pass, it was barely 10. The barn loomed closer each time. The oak stretched its black arms wider. The stop sign leaned more hunched. as if bowing toward me. I tried not to look at them anymore, but the more I avoided my eyes, the harder it became to resist. Each landmark carried its own gravity, pulling at me, demanding attention. It was the 10th loop when I noticed the pavement itself. The painted lines were wrong. At first they only seemed faded like any back road would be, but under my beams they rippled, bent, curved toward the shoulders, then snapped back. The blacktop itself looked wet, though the night was bone dry. My tires hummed differently too, like they weren't on asphalt at all, but some softer, hungrier surface. My rig rattled, the engine straining harder than it should. The dashboard lights flickered, needles twitching as if pulled by unseen magnets. I slammed the heel of my hand against the dash, but nothing steadied. The truck was being pushed, forced forward like a pawn on a board. And every time the road spat me back toward those landmarks, I felt the pressure build. The barn. This time the doorway wasn't just open. It was crowded. Shapes lingered inside, shoulder to shoulder. Not people, not quite. They were outlines, silhouettes, darker than the dark around them. They didn't move, didn't breathe, but I felt them staring through the windshield, pinning me to the seat. The oak tree twitched, not its branches, its trunk. The gouges split wider, bark peeling in strips. Something pale writhed beneath the skin of the wood, pulsing. And the stop sign, it had changed again. The letters turned back were smeared now, melted into something new. Come. I floored the gas, engine howling. My rig thundered past, and still I swore I felt invisible hands brushing along the trailer walls, pulling, beckoning. When I glanced at the passenger seat again, my chest iced over. He was back. The man-shaped shadow sat still, arms folded, head cocked. This time, I could see more detail, a torn plaid shirt, greasy hair plastered to his skull. His face was obscured, blurred, like an overexposed photo. My throat locked, breath ragged. I whispered, "Get out." He didn't move, didn't blink, just stared, mouth a black slit stretched into something too wide, too sharp. I ripped the wheel left, swerving violently. My rig fishtailed, tires screaming against asphalt. The shadow was gone in the blink of an eye, but I knew he hadn't left. He was waiting. By the 12th pass, the loop had shrunk to only 5 minutes. Barn, oak, stop sign. Barn, oak, stop sign. Barn, oak, stop sign. Each cycle pressed closer like walls sliding shut in a trap. The air grew heavier, denser, every breath like dragging smoke into my lungs. The CB crackled again, a woman's voice this time, hushed, broken. "He's almost here. Don't stop." "Who? Who's here?" I shouted, but only static answered, long and low, filling the cab like a scream too big for ears to hold. I don't remember pulling the logbook back out, but there it was on my lap. Pages filled with frantic handwriting, my handwriting, except I didn't remember writing any of it. The entries stretched back days, maybe weeks, all of them the same. The road won't let me out, landmarks changing, voices in the CB. Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. One page in particular chilled me. The ink was smeared, frantic, the letters jagged like they'd been carved instead of written. "If you see your own truck, run." I slammed the book shut, shoving it onto the floor. By the 14th pass, my headlights caught something ahead. At first, I thought it was another vehicle. Relief surged, another driver, maybe a way out, but the shape solidified, and my blood turned to ice. It was a truck. My truck. Same cab, same trailer, same faded company logo along the side. parked at the shoulder, its headlights dead, windows caked with grime. I slowed, heart pounding against my ribs. The windshield was shattered, spiderweb cracks radiating outward. Inside, slumped over the wheel, was me. Skin gray, mouth open in a silent scream. My hands clenched the wheel so hard I felt the bones pop. I slammed the gas and tore past, refusing to look again. The CB shrieked with static, voices overlapping, dozens of them, all screaming the same phrase in broken chorus. "Don't stop!" The loops shortened again. 4 minutes. 3, 2. The landmarks rushed at me, closer each time. The figures in the barn spilling into the doorway, the oak's branches spreading like claws across the road, the stop sign so bent it nearly scraped the pavement. I realized then it wasn't endless. It was funneling me, driving me forward like cattle into a chute. The road wasn't a trap, it was a tunnel, a throat swallowing me down. And at the end of that throat, waiting in the dark, something vast, something patient. I gritted my teeth, sweat pouring down my back, and forced the rig forward. But deep down I knew I couldn't run forever. The road wanted me. And soon it would have me. The road collapsed around me. By the 15th loop, there was no in-between anymore, no long stretches of forest, no winding dark to swallow me whole. Just a stuttering pulse of landmarks, each one closer than the last. Barn, oak, stop sign, barn, oak, stop sign. Then, without warning, the oak was gone. The stop sign vanished. Only the barn remained. My rig slowed as if some unseen hand pressed the brake. I slammed my foot on the gas, but the pedal sank uselessly under my boot. The engine howled, but the wheels crawled forward at a crawl, grinding gravel as though they were being dragged. And the barn's doors stood wide open, yawning into the night. It wasn't the same barn I'd passed before. No, this was older, rotten, skeletal. The boards sagged inward, their edges coated with moss and mold. The smell hit me before the wind carried it into the cab. Damp wood, rot, and something sour-sweet like meat left to spoil in the heat. Shapes hung from the rafters, not hay bales. These were heavier, dark, wrapped in canvas or cloth, suspended by ropes that groaned under their weight. One of them shifted slightly as I rolled closer, like something inside had twitched. The figures I'd seen in the doorway were still there, dozens now, maybe more. Their bodies were black silhouettes, their eyes pale slits of light, glowing faintly in the dark. They stood perfectly still, waiting. And me? I couldn't stop. The truck was no longer mine to control. With a final cough, the Freightliner gave up. The dashboard went black, the CB fizzled out, the headlights flickered and died. Darkness swallowed me whole. I sat gripping the wheel, breathing hard, the silence so deep I could hear the blood pumping in my ears. The barn loomed in front of me, taller than it should have been, its doors stretching impossibly wide, reaching skyward like a gaping maw. And then the whispers began. At first I thought it was the CB again, but no, the radio was dead. The voices came from outside. Hundreds of them, soft, overlapping like wind stirring dry leaves. Come in. Time to join. Always been yours. The figures at the doorway shifted in unison, stepping aside to reveal the black inside. It felt like an invitation or a command. My body screamed to run, but where? I was in the middle of nowhere, a prisoner of the loop. The forest beyond the barn pulsed, alive, thick with something that would swallow me if I dared leave the road. The only way forward was into that yawning dark. I unbuckled slowly, fingers trembling. The logbook slipped from the passenger seat to the floor, pages flapping open. One line burned into my vision. scrawled in frantic strokes. If you see the barn open, you don't get to choose. A chill swept through me. I pushed the door open. The night air hit like a slap, humid, fetid, heavy with the stink of mold and rust. My boots hit gravel, knees weak beneath me. Every instinct begged me to crawl back inside, to shut the door, to pretend none of this was real. But the barn waited. The gravel shifted beneath my boots as though nudging me forward. I stumbled toward the barn, each step dragging me deeper into its pull. The air thickened, hotter near the doors, like I'd stepped into the mouth of a furnace. Inside, lanterns flickered weakly along the walls. Old lanterns, their glass cracked, the flames inside guttering, though no fuel fed them. The light cast long shadows across the suspended shapes. I reached one, close enough to touch. The canvas was stained, dark blotches soaking through. I lifted a trembling hand and brushed the surface. It was soft, yielding. The cloth tore under my touch, and what spilled out was no hay. It was an arm. Gray. Withered, nails blackened. Human. I stumbled back, bile rising in my throat. The bundle swung slowly, groaning on its rope as if mocking me. The whispers rose sharper now. No longer soft, no longer coaxing, angry, urgent. Inside. Join. No escape. My chest clenched, my breath came ragged, shallow. My legs carried me forward deeper into the barn, though I swore I wasn't moving them. That's when I saw it. On the far wall, a cracked mirror. Its frame was warped, its glass coated with grime, yet in it I didn't see myself, not the me that stood trembling in that barn. The reflection was wrong. It showed me slumped behind the wheel of the Freightliner, skin gray, eyes hollow, lips parted in an eternal scream. Just like the corpse I'd seen earlier on the roadside. The me who had already lost. The figures in the barn began to descend, slipping from the rafters, melting from the shadows. Their eyes glowed faintly, their bodies bent at impossible angles. They closed in, circling me, herding me again, always herding. Behind me, the barn door slammed shut with a thunderous crack. Dust rained from the rafters, the ropes swaying violently. I was trapped. There was no road anymore, no truck, no outside world, just the barn, the dead things hanging above me and the whispers promising the same fate. And I knew, whatever waited at the heart of this place, I was about to meet it. The barn breathed. That's the only way I can explain it. The air moved in long, shuddering sighs, pulling me deeper into its lungs. Every lantern flame bowed in unison as though to the rhythm of some great invisible chest. The figures had surrounded me, silent sentinels with pale, glowing eyes. They didn't touch me, not yet, but their presence pressed against my skin like a cold fog, each one a wall I couldn't push through. The ropes above creaked, heavy bundles swaying, their canvas wrappings splitting to reveal more glimpses of gray flesh, withered faces, and blackened mouths that hung open in perfect silence. And at the heart of the barn something stirred. The pit yawned in the center of the dirt floor. It wasn't dug by hand. No tool could have carved such a perfect circle. The earth around it sagged inward, and the lantern light couldn't penetrate its depth. The whispers gathered strength, spiraling around me, echoing up from the pit itself. Join. Always here. Never left. The shapes tightened their ring. My knees buckled, gravel biting through my jeans as I collapsed. My palms hit dirt, wet with something slick, sticky. Blood, maybe? Or sap from the oak that had once stood sentinel outside. I tried to pray, though the words wouldn't come. My lips formed half-remembered verses, my voice catching in my throat. The whispering drowned it out. layers upon layers of voices clawing at my sanity. And then I heard my own voice among them. I turned toward the cracked mirror at the far wall. It hadn't moved, but now its surface rippled like water disturbed by a stone. Inside, I saw myself again, slumped in the cab, corpse gray, eyes like pits. But the reflection shifted, zooming closer, until it wasn't the truck at all, but this moment, me, kneeling in the barn, surrounded by the dark figures. And my reflection smiled. Not me, not really. My face, but stretched, skin splitting as it grinned wide enough to tear. Its eyes burned pale white, just like the silhouettes circling me. It lifted a hand, my hand, and gestured toward the pit, an invitation, a demand. The dirt shifted under me. My palms sank deeper, dragged downward as though gravity itself had chosen sides. The earth sucked at me, pulling me toward the pit. I scrambled backward, boots kicking up dust. "No!" My voice cracked, raw. I'm not part of this!" The silhouettes surged closer, their glowing eyes blinking in unison. And then, for the first time, one of them spoke. Not a whisper, a voice. My own voice. "You were always part of this." Hands, cold, black, indistinct, closed around my wrists, my ankles, my shoulders. They didn't squeeze, they simply guided, tugging me toward the pit with gentle, inevitable force. Like pallbearers leading me to a coffin. I fought, God, I fought. I kicked, screamed, clawed at the ground until my nails split and bled. I threw punches that sank through them like smoke, but still they hurted me, always hurting, always toward the center. The pit exhaled heat, wet and rancid, carrying with it a low hum, deeper than sound, something I felt in my bones. It vibrated through my chest, rattled my teeth, made my vision blur. And then I saw movement below. Eyes, hundreds of them, pale and glowing, layered deep within the darkness, stacked like stones in a well. They blinked, one after another, in a ripple that rose toward me. And a mouth followed. Not a human mouth, not an animal's, a gaping cavern of teeth, jagged and endless, opening wider, wider still, until the pit was nothing but hunger. I clawed at the barn floor, desperate for purchase, but the earth itself betrayed me. My hands slipped, dirt running like water between my fingers. The reflection in the mirror leaned closer, its smile grotesque, lips splitting to the ears. "No escape," it mouthed. The whispers surged, a hurricane of voices inside my skull. Some begged, some screamed, some laughed. All of them carried the same message. One of us. Always one of us. My boots tipped over the edge. My body pitched forward. For a heartbeat, I hung suspended over the abyss, staring into those endless eyes, that endless mouth. And then I fell. There was no impact, no end, just the sensation of falling forever, the whispers twining tighter in my ears until they became my thoughts. I understood then. Route 6 wasn't a road. It was a net, a funnel, a maw. Every driver who took it became fuel, fodder for whatever ancient things slumbered beneath this place. The loops weren't a mistake. They were digestion, a slow spiral, softening the meat, breaking down the mind. And me? I wasn't Jake anymore. I was another shadow in the barn, another whisper in the static, another set of eyes waiting in the dark. When I looked up again, I saw headlights in the distance. Another truck, another driver, another tired soul chasing a shortcut through Kentucky. The barn doors groaned open, the ropes swayed, and the pit whispered in a voice I now knew as my own, "Come in." And that was the tale of Route 6, a shortcut no driver ever truly escapes. If you ever find yourself in rural Kentucky and the road ahead seems too quiet, maybe think twice before you take that turn. Thank you for joining me tonight around the fire. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, please remember to like this video, drop a comment below, and share it with a friend who loves a good scare. It really helps this channel grow, and every single action is deeply appreciated. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to Campfire Horror Stories and hit the bell icon so you'll never miss the next terrifying tale. We've got plenty more nights ahead, and plenty more stories waiting in the dark.